The Urban Evolution Podcast is brought to you by Destination Medical Center, creating the global destination for health and wellness in Rochester, Minnesota. More at dmc.mn.
We all know that it's starting to come back with local travel, right? And so how do we help improve that local travel? And maybe it's not somebody that's staying in your hotel that's coming from 2 states over, but maybe it's somebody that's, from the other side of the state that's staying in your hotel, right? And so how do we help improve that local travel, get people to start exploring a little bit more? That's just going to help expand upon that as it starts to grow.
Long term, we see ourselves as being the platform for local travel and exploration, and we're thinking about how to scale to that point. It's always trying to find the next logical stepping stone to get to that. So we've made a bunch of great steps up in the last year, and we're actively looking for those next steps to move us to the national level, to a broader scope.
Welcome to Urban Evolution, a podcast about harnessing creativity and innovation to transform communities. I'm your host, Bill Von Bank. A Rochester, Minnesota startup is helping to fill a void in community exploration. Shrpa.com connects travelers with self-guided adventures created by locals. It's a unique online resource that is gaining traction and subscribers. Today, I'm joined by the co-founders of Shrpa.com, Chris Lukenbill and Andy Vig, both software developers who met at a co-working space. They both struggled to find a source for new experiences. Not finding a usable platform, they created their own, with a long-term vision for Shrpa.com to be the platform for local travel and exploration. Chris Lukenbill, Andy Vig, welcome to the Urban Evolution Podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us here.
Thanks for having us.
Chris and Andy, can you share with us your career journey? Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in software development for my entire career, and it really started out of college working with a smaller company that really introduced me into entrepreneurship. And so I'd say that's really where it started, even for what we're doing here with Sherpa. From there, I developed into building a company previous to this that was in the indoor agriculture industry, so a different industry, but that was taking a product from idea through acquisition, and then most recently jumping into Sherpa.
All right, Andy, how about you?
I'm also a software engineer by trade and started my career at Microsoft and spent about 10 years there. And since then, I've effectively gradually moved down to smaller and smaller companies until here with Sherpa, finally getting to the core co-founder of a startup.
Have you always been in Rochester?
No, I went to school in Moorhead and lived in Fargo for a number of years.
Chris, how about you? Have you always been in Rochester?
That's a good question. No, actually, I started over in South Dakota, went to school at SDSU, worked for a few years in Sioux Falls, and then made my way over here as a trailing spouse. My wife works at IBM.
You referenced Sherpa, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So give us a look into your new company, a new startup here in Rochester, Minnesota called Sherpa.
Yes. So Sherpa is a company that's all based around day trips, getting people out there and exploring their communities in a new way. And so we provide the full experience of how they can get out and explore a community that they haven't already been out and explored on their own. So opening up the world to new possibilities of how people can get out and explore something new. And then for the communities, the idea is we're able to provide with them a better way to be able to expand the group that can share their stories and really open up their stakeholder group to more people that can help share what they love about their community.
Andy, where did the idea come from to start Sherpa?
It was originally Chris's idea, technically, but early on we got together and both had a similar problem where we ended up repeating similar things that we were doing. We really wanted to experience more of what was out there. We found friends and others at our co-working space that we were at that found all kinds of new, exciting things to do. And we felt like there should be a place to go find that, a site, and that didn't exist. And that's kind of what the genesis was.
What led to the founding of Sherpa? It's my understanding that you both met each other at a co-working space in downtown Rochester.
Correct.
Can you shed some light on that?
Correct. Yeah. So as Andy was saying, we really started out with kind of the same idea, and it was actually through working at the same co-working space that we knew each other through that. And we just started bouncing the ideas off of each other as far as what could this actually become? What would the product be? What would the business be? And it was the iteration of that conversation as we would help each other work through the ideas, where really both of us got more excited about it, more passionate about it. And that's where the start of it began, is that we both really talked each other into the idea of this is a good thing to do. And we have a lot of opportunities here, so let's give it a go.
The co-working space being Collider Co-working downtown Rochester. Was it just basically your desks are next to each other and you just started chatting?
The co-working space at Collider in downtown is a great way to intermix, to have collisions, as the name goes, to intermix with different people doing different things. To just, I've worked at home for a number of years, and this was a great way for me to get out and to meet interesting people in the community that have different skill sets for me. So it's a great way for different ideas to come together.
Where did the name Sherpa come from?
Sherpa really takes its name as an inspiration from the Sherpas in Nepal, the people that are guiding people on adventures up in the Himalayas. And we really identify with that, as far as these are creators who are providing all of that information, all of the logistics, the things to expect before you go out and have this adventure. Here's all of the information that you need to be able to go out and have your own adventure.
Andy, when did you realize that Sherpa could become a business opportunity?
From early on, we realized there was a lot of potential. It actually took us a long time to iterate and find an actual target market. The core vision has stayed the same, but we really worked through different iterations of how we could take what we considered a really valuable idea and actually make it into a sustainable business that can generate users and revenue and build a team.
And then let's dial back a bit. When did you really start this platform and get the business rolling?
It started in very early 2019, and that was really where the idea started up. And we worked through everything that first year, as Andy was saying, it really always started out as the idea of how do you get travelers and creators? How do you connect them together? People that can highlight what they love to do in their local community and people looking for something new. We want to have that way for them to be able to connect. And throughout 2019, we started developing that idea, trying to figure out what it could be as a product. And that's what it's developed into. In 2020 is when it really started to go into a business and become more than just a product.
In the early stages, I'm guessing you did your research, combing the internet and other sources to see if there was something that matched your vision, and there wasn't.
Yeah,
Right.
As a creator, we're not looking to recreate something that's already been done and try and do that better. If something already existed, I would have used that, right? We were looking for a solution to a problem
That you had.
Exactly. And so if there was a solution already, that would be a lot simpler. We wouldn't have to do all of this. It would already be out there and we'd be using that, right? And the fact that there wasn't a solution is really what led to us creating it.
From day one to today, early 2021, talk us through the evolution of this platform.
Initially, it started off as the core site for travelers. And initially, the core of it is a content platform. So it started off by bothering our friends and others in the co-working space to try to come up with the fun stuff that they were doing anyway and just put it on the site. So it started off as just a primitive way to get that content out there. And we've built up over time a better content creation experience. So it's easy and fun for the creators to actually put content on the site. We've enhanced the way that travelers can discover. And more recently, we've built in some more power for communities to highlight the fun things to do in their community in aggregate.
And I just want to be clear, you don't really have any identified competition for this right now?
Not directly. There's all, on the traveler side of things, there's the TripAdvisors, there's the Yelp type of solutions out there. There's places that do reviews and people can find out what exists out there. But then being able to put that into a full experience. On the other side of it a little bit, there's Airbnb experiences, which is really just a tour guide marketplace. So there's things that are touching on it on a little bit, even on the traveler side. And then for the communities, really solutions that are out there for the communities, there's other solutions that do similar things, but nothing really that's taking on this content creation, helping to amplify the voice of your community to be part of just telling that story. And so that's where we've found that there's indirect competition, but really nothing directly yet.
There's plenty of sites and blogs that have like a top 10 list of things to do, but nothing that really highlights true experiences that actually remove the need to go out and do a bunch of research and planning. And that's the idea of the core value of our site.
So you found a niche.
Yep, that's right.
You talked about your customers, but I would just want you to drill a little bit deeper because it feels like it's layered.
Yes, it is. It is. And it really did start with that the travelers and the creators and connecting those two together. And that's what I was saying. In 2019, that was really our focus. In 2020, our customer has really evolved into the destination marketing organizations, the visitors bureaus. So now we've really introduced almost this third side to the marketplace. These are the people that are looking to do the same thing that we were looking to do. How do they connect travelers with the people that have the information about how to experience their community? And so that's where we turned to them and said, hey, you're trying to solve the same problem. How can we work with you to be able to bring this solution to market, to be able to expand it here locally, be able to grow beyond our region? And so that's where introducing it to that third side of the marketplace has really helped us to be able to build this into something bigger. And we're just starting to tap into that. You know, the customers that we're really looking at that level it's anything from a community of less than 1,000 people that are using this, because it's a platform that can scale with the community, all the way up to the larger destinations. When we think about tourism destinations here in Minnesota, we work with Brainerd, we will work with Mall of America, those types of places that are larger entities that can help. Again, we're helping to tell their story. All of these organizations really need that assistance. They don't have the resources or even the amount of people that they would need to be able to tell the story of all of their community members, right?
Was that really how you monetize the site?
Yep, that's the business model there, is that we sell yearly subscriptions for them to be able to help to be promoting that community engagement. Also, there's a little bit of content creation opportunities in there as well. And that's how we work with our customers currently.
The platform subscription is to a Convention and Visitors Bureau, a Chamber of Commerce.
Correct.
And other destination marketing organizations.
Correct, yeah. Anybody that really has the need to be able to help bring in their community. We found that visitors bureaus definitely fall into that. Destination marketing organizations definitely fall into that. Depending on the community and the way that they're organized, chambers fall into that, EDAs as well. And even organizations you wouldn't really think of, again, Mall of America, they're really a DMO on their own, just very strict boundaries of where they're at, right? So we see there's a lot more opportunities of other organizations that we can start to work with. And it's really just a matter of helping to identify those, helping them to find us, and finding ways that we can work together.
You have a partnership with Explore Minnesota, the tourism promotion agency for the state of Minnesota. Talk us through that.
That started in late 2020 is when we started that conversation. We found out there was an opportunity. We were introduced to it from Lisa Helveka. She's part of the Southern Minnesota tourism group here, part of Explore Minnesota. And the nice thing about just being introduced to that, again, being part of Rochester here, we have an opportunity to get connected in with people from around, of course, our community, but then also the extended community of the state. And that's really where that introduction started. How we've been working with them is they have a co-op marketing program. And the idea with this co-op marketing program is, what are the ways that they can introduce more innovative ways that communities can help tell their story and get the word out about what they're doing? And so our platform falls really well into that, right? It really complements what they're looking to do. And how that works is that Explore Minnesota is able to provide some of the financial incentive to these communities so that they can get a reduced rate on the subscriptions. And then it also helps us to be able to, one, have a little bit of a stamp of approval from a larger organization like Explore Minnesota, in addition to helping to introduce our platform to a lot more communities. And that's really the biggest thing that we find is a challenge, is just getting our name out there, letting people know that we exist. As a new startup, that's always going to be your challenge. But the fact that once we have those conversations, most of the times they find that it's a good tool for what they're looking to do, right? It's a great way to be able to get the word out there.
Andy, what roadblocks have you encountered along the way as you developed this site?
Awareness has been a big part of it. And I think part of that is just our skill sets. I'm an engineer by training, so for me, building the site is the easiest thing. But marketing doesn't come naturally. So people have so many distractions these days. It's hard to get the word out and connect with the right people in the right way and get that messaging solid.
And as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to do it all.
Yeah, being in a startup is an art of doing all the things you're not comfortable with. So that's a good test.
For you both, because you both have young families, how do you balance all the work involved with a startup and family life? Are your families involved in the business as well?
Our families aren't involved in the business, other than when you're in a startup, they kind of always are, no matter what, right? So maybe not directly, maybe not making phone calls, maybe not writing the code.
They go on the day trips with us.
They do go on the day trips. Yep. They get to experience it, right? So maybe the best part of all of it. And actually they help create some of the content too. My wife has definitely been there helping creating content. Same thing with Andy's wife. For us, I think both of us can probably agree that it's all about the prioritization, right? You only have so much time. And so how do you prioritize what needs to get done when it needs to get done? And then I would say, even for myself, especially being able to say no to things. I always want to try, everything, try and get out there, try and help where I can, or try and get involved with more things. And it's trying to balance that out of what can you be involved with? What can you take part in? But be able to say no to enough things that, anytime you are saying yes to everything, you're by default saying no to other things, right? So being able to be aware of what that is.
I have young kids, and actually, I think that was a good intro into being in a startup in some ways, because when you have a newborn, prioritizing things and ignoring things is essential to actually getting sleep. And relative to that, I think prioritization in the startup is somewhat easier.
I want to get into the COVID-19 pandemic because you can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in our lives for over a year. How has it impacted your business as you develop it?
As we're working with travelers and creators, there's been a enhanced need to get out and just get some type of, even just locally getting out and exploring their local communities, right? One is just to help support those businesses, to be able to find an outlet, to be able to get out there and provide some of that support. And especially as you're exploring somewhere, having all of the information that you can ahead of time. Anytime that you feel unsafe about things, having more information is so valuable, right? And so that's something from the traveler side of things, even from the creator side of things, that it's really enhanced the need for what we're providing. When we talk about the communities that we're working with, it's really accelerated that as well, right? Because they've never had a lot of resources. They've never had more than enough people to be able to do what they're trying to do. And now with COVID and the restrictions are the limitations on their budgets, the limitations on the amount of people they just have in the office anymore, it's made that even more potent, even more focused, that we need to really be able to help out in any way that we can. And so I would say more than anything, it's just accelerated the need for all of the groups that we're serving.
And how many groups are you serving? What's your client base right now?
We just went over 25. I think we're at 27 communities throughout mostly Minnesota and a few into Wisconsin currently.
And Wisconsin is an expansion state for you?
Yes. Yep. We're focusing on Wisconsin next. We're working actually with Travel Wisconsin, looking to do something similar as Explore Minnesota with their state as well. That's something that we're looking at to see what all of the states around us have that as far as an opportunity. And then the next expansion is really, we're looking at a different strategy for expanding nationally. So we have a couple of different routes there.
As you look to a national strategy, I just want to share some current travel and tourism data with you, because it's not pretty, but it's real. The U.S. Travel Association shares that the tourism industry saw an unprecedented 42% decline in annual spending in 2020, with hotel occupancy rates at an all-time low. McKinsey and Company notes a recovery could be slow, with an optimistic scenario of a full recovery not before 2023. So you look at information like this. Does this information and the projections change your strategy? Do you feel like it only makes it easier for you to sell your product because of these stats? I mean, how do you take these stats and look forward?
It reminds us how important it is for us to provide value, and how much the right tool can really help different organizations and communities, and helps prioritize and helps us focus. Yeah,
that's something that with those communities and with the stats that you're mentioning there, it's definitely we all know that it's starting to come back with local travel, right? And so how do we help improve that local travel? And maybe it's not somebody that's staying in your hotel that's coming from 2 states over, but maybe it's somebody that's, from the other side of the state that's staying in your hotel, right? And so how do we help improve that local travel, get people to start exploring a little bit more? That's just going to help expand upon that as it starts to grow, right? And so I wouldn't say that it helps us in any way as far as, making it easier, but it helps as far as it really focuses in that need for it. The budgets are still constrained, so there's the challenge there, but it really focuses the need that they need this even more. And even when we talk about community engagement was something that industry-wide had been a nice to have. And it was talked about maybe for the last 3 years of, how can you really build up that stakeholder network? How can you make a more robust and inclusive group of stakeholders in your local community? And that was a nice to have. And now they're finding that's a necessity.
A unique selling proposition for you.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so that's really what we're leaning into, especially on the national expansion, is how do we help with that community engagement and really help each one of those communities as they're looking to build out what they can do locally, and then be part of that conversation when it starts to becoming that national travel and international travel as well.
What are some trends you are seeing with travelers and the users of your site?
For us, really, the biggest focus has been that excitement about highlighting their local communities, right? Both on the creator side and on the traveler side. There's that pride, that local pride about, oh yeah, those are the local shops that we love to explore. We love to tell everybody about that as well, right? And so not only are they discovering what other people are excited and proud about to be able to share on their own, and so that trend of getting in and supporting those local businesses, right? And that's something that we've seen in a lot of other areas, is that support for the local businesses. And so being able to help out with that has been a really big piece of it. And then it comes down to, they see this as, oh, well, I can see this from a traveler's perspective. How can I help share what's going on in my local community, right? So being able to provide the platform for both sides of that.
Sherpa took home $10,000 in prize money for the best Greater Minnesota startup at the 2020 Minnesota Cup, which is the largest statewide startup competition in the nation. I'm guessing that energized you and was welcome seed money?
Yeah, absolutely. Minnesota Cup was an excellent opportunity for us to both immerse ourselves in other organizations that are at a similar stage as us, but also to really round out some of the business planning and thinking that we should really be doing as a startup, which was great for us to not just stay focused in on the dev, but yet to think about the business model, to think about some of these larger cross-discipline areas. So that competition was a great experience for us.
And it's my understanding that you'll be participating in 2021?
Yes, that's the case. So we finished in the perfect place. If you're not going to win the entire thing, get third place in your division, because first and second don't get to come back. And so we are in the high-tech division, the highest ranking from last year coming back. It's a little bit of pressure on us, but hopefully that means that we'll be able to get back into that semifinals round and get some really good connections in there. As Andy was saying, it's the immersion into the group. It's the recognition that really helps. And then the opportunity to be able to get some seed money as well. So, some of those funds that help as you're bootstrapping it, anything really goes a long ways to be able to help, build up an even more robust team.
When you're doing a startup, being part of a community that's supportive of startups and connects you with assistants and different thoughts and mentors makes a huge difference. And that was super helpful for both the Collider co-working space and the work they do and the Minnesota Cup.
Did you also receive some funding through Launch Minnesota?
Yes, we did. So again, speaking of as far as a larger community, how they can be so incredibly helpful, Launch Minnesota has an innovation grant. And as part of that innovation grant, very similar to Minnesota Cup, where you are trying to highlight out and prove out this is the value that you can provide as a business and the viability that you have as a business. They have a panel, a board of advisors that reviews all of those, in addition to another team to look everything over. They were able to provide with funds through the Launch Minnesota Innovation Grants, which is something that's funded through the state. So it works extremely well to be able to, again, be part of a community, whether it's Rochester-based, statewide based, that can really support their entrepreneurs and their startups in creating something new.
MinaInno, an online technology and innovation news source, named Sherpa one of 21 startups to watch in Minnesota in 2021. Any pressure there?
It was great to get the recognition. I wouldn't say that puts any more pressure than Chris and I put on each other on a regular basis. So that's kind of the norm. But it's great to get that recognition.
The recognition is huge. Being able to have that is definitely something that helps to get the word out, let people know that we're here, and get more people excited about what we're doing.
If you could start over, what would you change?
There's a million different things that I've learned that I would probably optimize and do things faster, but there's nothing major that I would change. A big part of being in a startup is not the destination, but the journey. It's the act of building and learning and experiencing. And therefore, you need to see that as part of the value and part of it.
I think that probably highlights the value of having a partner, a co-founder in this, right? Is that you have somebody who's always helping to recenter you. And Andy definitely knows this, that I can get focused on something and really go down the wrong path quickly. And I get excited about things. And sometimes it's those things that get you excited send you off in the wrong direction. And so having somebody there to be able to say, just ask a question, is that a good thing to be doing? Or should we focus on this? Or is that really the priority now? That's something that's so valuable. And so I think you, instead of going on those big veers and iterations where you're like, oh, that was a really big mistake. As Andy said, it's a process. And so we're learning the whole way. And so maybe it's, smaller zigs and zags that we're doing to get to the end destination, but I'm extremely happy with everything we've been able to do so far.
A core piece of what we do is try to iterate quickly and to fail fast. And because of that, I feel like we try not to take these massive course corrections that are needed, but to come up with an idea, think about how we could test it out, and then experiment to try to understand if that is the right path or not. And then you just don't go as far if something doesn't work out like you expect.
Is it just the two of you, or do you have staff?
Yes, we have. So our first full-time member joined us at the end of the last year, very beginning of this year, Hannah Engel. So she is our marketing director. And she actually started out as an intern with us. And it's something where her role just evolved into something bigger and bigger. She was able to provide a lot of help with it. And then we've always worked with a good group of advisors and also contractors that we bring in different roles. And so we always have contractors that we're working with, especially on the development side of things, to be able to augment Andy's skills and what he's able to bring to the table. And then we've also just brought on Garrett Liefring. So he's able to help out on the sales side of things. He really started out more in that advisor role of things, and he really got more excited about what we were able to do and where things were headed. And so he's starting out with us on the sales side as well. And so we see this year as us hopefully expanding and growing at a much quicker pace. And so we'll see where that goes.
How are you with your goals in terms of business development currently? And then let's talk growth strategy moving forward.
We're on pace. We're doing well. This is the challenge always as a startup, is you always want to do more, right? And so it's trying to be happy with what you're getting accomplished. And so we are accomplishing, we're actually right on pace as far as developing out in Minnesota. We actually started with that Explore Minnesota partnership. And thanks to the quick response of the communities throughout the state, they actually doubled their partnership that they were putting into it because we had such a great response. And so,
fantastic.
Yeah, and so that's just the first 6 months, of the year here. So they're on a fiscal year that starts in July. And so as we look to what we can do now for the next fiscal year for Minnesota, we see a lot of opportunity expanding in our state. But now we're really looking at, okay, regionally, how can we replicate that out in the neighboring states? And then the other part of it that we alluded to earlier is that national expansion. That's still the unknown. It's still the piece that we haven't proven that out like we've proven out Minnesota and been able to do in the regional expansion.
Long term, we see ourselves as being the platform for local travel and exploration, and we're thinking about how to scale to that point. It's always trying to find the next logical stepping stone to get to that. So we've made a bunch of great steps up in the last year, and we're actively looking for those next steps to move us to the national level, to a broader scope.
Are you able to project out 3 to 5 years?
We can try. I don't think it's very. We don't delude ourselves that what we project will be accurate, but the act of gaming those situations out is extremely helpful for us to understand, if we go this direction, these are some complications and considerations. If we go this other direction, and it helps really inform our near-term strategy to think through the longer-term goals and strategy.
Yeah, when we're thinking about that growth from where we're at currently, we're still serving this in 3 to 5 years. We're still serving the same customers. It's just whether we're able to provide more value for more of our customers, right? Right now, we're really leaning into what is that value that we can provide for these communities, because there's a really big need there and they have that really focused in. And so how can we help them? And we can do that on a local level. And now as we get to a national expansion, now it becomes really exciting about what we can do to provide value for those travelers, and how do those travelers explore both in their local community and explore when they go further and start to travel across the country or even internationally. And so that's where 3 to 5 years, we see ourselves playing in that space as well as still serving the same customers that we're serving today.
You're filling a gap. Do you worry that others will chase the business as you build more success and you scale up? Do you worry about competition?
No, not particularly. We have both the benefit of entering the space early as well as being able to move fast. And we see being able to iterate and move quickly as one of our core competitive advantages. And if somebody can beat us at that, then so be it. But that's the velocity and the speed of movement is something we're very focused on.
Yeah, it really comes down to, we have customers now and they see the value of what we're providing. It's just a matter of us being able to reach out to those customers quicker, right? And so I would be more concerned if we were still struggling to find a customer and searching for somebody, right? And how do we get there? We know that we want to try and solve a problem. That's just not where we're at. We're in a place where we have a solution that people are receiving and they're responding well to. And so now it's just a matter of us, how can we help those customers quicker? And how can we build our company to be able to match that level of what they need?
And you have a density of customers or enough customers to really help you learn, adjust, move, and grow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's a really big thing as well. As we build out this community engagement piece, this national expansion, we are leaning into our local customers. There are alpha testers. They're the first ones, that we're working with already to say, hey, here's what we're looking to provide on this community engagement piece. You've already mentioned that you're excited about that. Provide us with some feedback, because we can, and that's what we do. We build it to the point where, as Andy was noting, we don't want to go too far down the wrong path. And so how can we correct ourselves on that? Well, asking the people that know exactly what they need, that's how we can correct ourselves. We need to provide enough for them to be able to understand what we're trying to do with our platform and what we're trying to provide with that solution. And then they can guide us the rest of the way.
As a startup, feedback and learning is super essential. So leaning on those customers to be able to get that is one of those valuable things that we can get.
That two-way communication obviously also leads to loyalty, I bet.
Definitely. And that's any time that you're providing a subscription service. So we're a SaaS, service to a lot of these communities. The way that we always talk about that is they're not just buying what we can offer them today. They're buying what we can be in a year from now, right? And they understand that we're just scratching the surface of what we can help them out with. And so if they can be part of that conversation, that just helps them to be just more invested, more excited about it.
It also makes us more real. We're not this big faceless corporation. Yeah. We're not some contact link. We're real people that are happy to have a conversation with them and take their feedback and improve the product from it.
Well, you're hospitable, and this is the hospitality industry, so that makes sense.
That helps.
And that's a nice thing as well, right? It's a community that it's all about connections and networking with people, and how do you have a good conversation. So we even talk about that in the solution that we provide. How do we help our customers to be able to help introduce it to more people, right? Because they're a heavily networked group. They like to help each other out. Nobody likes to hold the secrets of what they do to help their community, right? They like to share with everybody else to say, oh, this is the way that you can make your community better as well.
Well, there's a lot of pride as content creators, I have to think, because they want to share what they like about the community. Yep. And that only makes the visitors' experience that much more meaningful.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely. I have one final question for you both to answer separately. As you think about the growth of your startup and reflect on this past year dealing with a global pandemic, what inspires you? Andy, let's start with you.
For me, all of the opportunity that's out there in every sense, the opportunity of the team that I'm working with, the opportunity of the community that I live in, helping out, the opportunity of building something really useful that people value and helps enhance their lives. Just the opportunity in so many ways is super inspiring.
Chris?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, there's the opportunities are definitely huge. In addition to that, it's the customers that we talk to. It's the people that we get to be able to interact with every day. And when we're able to bring a solution to them to help what they're doing, right? Because we're just trying to provide some help with a really hard job that they have to be able to help tell their story and promote their communities. And being able to be part of that and to work with them on that, and the excitement that they get out of being able to serve their customers better, that's a huge win, and that's definitely inspiring.
Chris Lukenbill, Andy Vig, it's great to hear about Sherpa. Wonderful new platform. Best of luck moving forward. Thank you for being our guests on Urban Evolution.
Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
And thank you for tuning in to Urban Evolution. More info about the podcast and our guests can be found at urbanevolutionpodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe. Urban Evolution is a production of Destination Medical Center Economic Development Agency. Learn more at dmc.mn. Stay safe and be well.